Try to keep your heels to the ground. It's impossible. It's a good calf stretch. The little young kids have to do this. Bothers me when they do that. I can't. But put catch stretching back to the calf. Now dive down, roll up into a cobra, stretch the lower back. Really get that stretch. So good. All it's like crack, 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 up into plank. So plank is a great core exercise. Keep your back straight, tighten your abs, tighten your back. Right. If you want to be a little bit more advanced, go like Rocky. What you're doing there is the skeletal alignment starts to be at an angle. Right. So you're not straight up and down with your arms. This is actually the easiest way to do this. Goal, get to about 2 minutes with this is actually awesome. All right, bring one foot up to the side. Get a nice stretch. You don't have to go too far, just as far as you're comfortable. Back straight. Other foot. And back. So now walk this in between up to your arms. So just walk, stay on your tiptoes. Stay in the squat for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to stay on our tiptoes. And we're going to roll all the way up to touch the ceiling again. It is good to wobble, so the more you wobble, the more you're working your stabilizers. So roll it up nice and slow. Stay on your tiptoes and reach up toward the ceiling. And reach out toward the walls. Really try to touch the walls. Really get that stretch. And then, all right, cool.
Breathing is important.
Breathing is key. That's why it's my trick. I always talk. If I'm talking, then I'm breathing properly, right? So you can talk while you're on a treadmill, you're breathing right. That's kind of the measuring.
If he's not talking, somebody check on top.
Yeah, and then I talk too much, they shoot me with Nerf guns. So I get shot with Nerf guns a lot. Or bows and arrows, or I should at least. So we're going to talk a little bit about guards. Right? But before we do, let's talk about just a quick footwork. How do you stand with a lightsaber, and how can you stand? So grab your sabers. So you can call them guards, you can call them stances, you can call them kanai, you can call them a lot of different things. Essentially, it's how you stand with your weapon against your opponent. Right?
I won't fight.
So there are probably an infinite number of ways to do this. We kind of focus on about 8 core ways you can approach your opponent and stand with your opponent. What we're going to go through is about 4 of them today. Essentially, all a guard is a starting position, right? So if I'm starting a cut, I will start in one guard, I'll go through my cut, through the body of my opponent, I'll end in a second guard. Just a start and an end. A guard is a posture, it's a moment in time. So if you're fighting with your opponent, and I took a picture halfway through, you're going to be in some guard, right? Wherever you're going to be in some position. We practice from those positions so that when you find yourself all tired and laying back, well, we practice from here. I know exactly I can do. I have a couple options, right? So you kind of use those guards as starting points for your opponent. So we'll go through our 4 basic ones now. First one is just middle guard. So right foot forward, left foot back. The way I like to stand, I told you is start. If you haven't done this before, start off. It's going to be a little different than the kendo, so you're going to see a little bit different. Start off with your feet 90 degrees apart. Right foot pointing straight ahead, right? So whatever direction you're pointing, right foot's pointing forward. Left foot is actually on the inside of that foot. Step back 2 steps and out just a little bit. So what I'm trying to say is here, if I drag this foot forward, I'm not hitting my front foot. I'm not back here and like, oops, I gotta hit my front foot the entire time, right? So, right foot forward, left foot back. Saber straight out in front of you. There you go. Real comfortable. So as long as you're just nice and comfortable, a little bit of bend in your knees. Your weight is about evenly distributed, so you can go forward or back without any issue, right? Saber straight out. Lower it down about your hip level and grab on with the bottom hand. If you don't carry yourself, everyone does 2-handed weapons, good. Right hand is always all the way up on top. I don't care if you're a righty or a lefty, right hand's always on top, left hand's on the bottom, as far down as you can get it. It's a lever. Fulcrum in the middle. If I keep my hands here, the fulcrum becomes the end and I get less mechanical advantage, right? Hands in the middle of this, so biggest gap you can, all the way up top, all the way toward the bottom, middle guard. So we call this middle guard because it's protecting the middle of our body. Really very simple, right? So if I'm against Rocky, and I'm in middle guard, I'm not giving him any real reason to attack me. My blade is pointing at his eyes, right? It's right in front of him. If he runs forward without addressing my blade, he's gonna run into my blade, right? So I'm not giving him any incentive to hit me, but I am kind of the most neutral, protective posture I can be in. You give anybody anything, a tube, a cardboard, a saber, a sword, and tell them go into a guard position, they're gonna do this, or they're gonna be in there, the middle guard role is kind of in our nature, it's the first thing we all do. So it's a great starting position if you're against an opponent, you don't know what they're gonna do, you go into middle guard, see how they react, right? If Rocky goes into middle guard across from me, and I don't do something, I'm gonna get run through, right? So I've gotta take some kind of action on his blade. I've gotta move it out of my line. So I've gotta hit it out of the way, I've gotta displace it out of the way, or I've gotta move out of the way so I've got a new center line where I'm here, whereas before I was here. So it really is forcing me as an opponent against someone in the middle guard to take some kind of action, right? I can't just ignore this blade. It's a dangerous, threatening object right in my face. Make sense? So that's middle guard. First stance, everybody learns, everybody has it. Right foot forward, left foot back, saber out in front of you. The tip of your saber is pointing at your opponent's eyes. So if you're in the mirror looking across, the saber tip is at your eyes. Reason being, I'm looking down the length of the blade as an opponent. I don't have a full understanding of how long this weapon is. Right? It's a little tactical advantage for at least the first couple rounds. Right? Next guard is a low guard. Take my tip, pointing toward my opponent's feet. You'll see some people drop way down, like you'll see me do this potentially, pull my arms in. Keep your arms out, keep your saber down. What I'm doing is, Rocky goes into middle guard, again, this circle around him is pretty well protected. He drops down to low guard, I as the opponent go, ooh, his head's open. I can hit him in the head. Well, he wants me to think that. So when I go in for a headshot, he either runs me through or he attacks me, he blocks my blade. Right? So again, low guard, great position to start off in. Tip is down, you're opening up your high line to your opponent. Very comfortable position. It's actually very easy to kind of come up and do that upward cut to the bottom of the hands. It is a little bit more time consuming if you're going to do shoulder cuts, but you got to come way up around the top to do that. Right? So it depends on what your offensive strategy is. So, low guard. We'll go through two other ones. Next one is a shoulder guard. Right? So very good for downward strikes. So, right foot, step back, bring the weapon up to your shoulder. So where does this go? Do I hold it way up in the air? Do I drop wherever your natural skeletal structure of your shoulder just kind of stops, your hand just kind of stops there, that's the spot. It's different for everybody, right? So I don't want to force it up in the air, hunch my shoulder up, force it down. It's whatever's right there. Two quick things. I don't do this and rest it on my shoulder because the movement of getting it off my shoulder is actually a tell. I've got to do this before I can cut. So I don't rest it on my shoulder. And in this stance, I'm not actually keeping it up straight. It's actually right off my shoulder. Right? Very good for just stepping in and cutting down. Right? Very direct, very linear cut. That being said, again, so Rocky steps up into middle guard. So he steps up into shoulder guard. So he steps back into shoulder guard. What he's done, he's opened up his entire outside line. Two, he's put himself in a very offensive posture. He is going to attack. This is not a defensive posture. This is, I'm going to hit you, and I'm going to hit you hard and fast. Be ready for it, right? But he wants me to do this. So if I'm against him, we walk up against each other. We're both in a natural stance. We're not doing anything right. We're out of measure. We're out of distance to each other. We're not threatening each other. I come into a middle guard. Rocky goes into a shoulder guard. So immediately, he's like, I'm not going to address your blade. I'm going to counter invitation. I'm going to come get you. What are you going to do? What am I going to do about it? So he goes into the shoulder guard. Most people, there's always an exception to the rule, when they do a shoulder guard, are going to come down and strike right to my shoulder. So if I'm here, odds are he's going to come right down my inside. That's his primary attack vector. Right? Yes, you can go around the back end. Yes, you can do a lot of different kind of cuts with it, but the most common attack, if someone goes on the shoulder, is to come straight down onto your opponent's shoulder. Does that make sense? Very easy, very direct, and very powerful. Right? Now.
Man.
Huh? Yeah.
stay in the center grade, you're good.
Perfect.
There we go.
So, let's go through those real quick. Come back over a second. So middle guard, right foot forward, left foot back. Think of that bubble around your body. You are protecting the bubble pretty well with this middle guard. I can block left, inside, outside, low. I can block high. Very, very easy. I can move very fluidly from this stance. Right? I'm also not giving my opponent any incentive. If you're across from someone and they're a middle guard, why would you attack them? Their blade is right there to run you through. Right? So we'll do a couple things of what you can do to get around that in a second. Low guard, drop that tip down. You're intentionally opening up your high line to your opponent. You know that, so you're kind of building that chess game strategy of, all right, he's going to attack, I'm going to block, I'm going to parry or post. Or I'm going to step offline and strike, and we'll go through that move in the drill we're going to do. Cool. Shoulder guard, step back, up to the shoulder. And I like that stepping back part because in all honesty, I do want to kind of pull my opponent into me. And that movement will pull the opponent into you. Now I'm here. I know that attack is probably going to come to my outside because I'm giving my opponent my outside. I may even be a little tricky and stick my elbow out, make that a nice juicy target for my opponent because I know that I can pull it down and strike as they come in. All right, so you got a lot of options to move and a lot of options to attack. Last one is a high guard. Watch the ceiling. High guard is essentially going to give you a great cut. So if I go up in a high guard, same left foot forward, blade is going to go up over my head. I am looking through my arms. I'm not trying to look around my hilt. I'm looking through my arms. My blade is back. It's not a tail. It's not a horn, right? It's about 45 degrees back behind me. You are going to cut down on someone's top of someone's head and you're in this stance. It's a great cut for a reason. I'm going to step forward and strike down. Right? If you go against an opponent and they jump up into a high guard, you got to do a low high guard, but you know what it is.
That's so low.
You're fine. Actually, you can stand. So if he goes into a high guard, I know he's coming right down. He's coming in a straight line of attack right to the top of my head. So I've got to be aware of that. Right? I'm going to have to step off the line of attack so that I don't get hit, one. Two, so that I can take advantage of some distance and attack his extremities. So the farthest point from, or the closest point to me that I want to attack. He's got a big blade, I want to stay out of that blade. That's actually the drill we're going to work through next as we go through this is, what do you do for that great cut, or even a shoulder cut that's coming straight down to your head? We can actually cover both of those. So again, if the opponent comes up, he's in this high guard, what am I going to do? I'm in my middle guard. Well, he's kind of silly because I'm going to stay right here and let him run through as soon as he decides to cut down because my point is going to reach him a lot sooner than his point's going to reach me. Right? So that's the one that you got to look at is distance. Where are you to your opponent? If I am within 2 blocks, right, from my opponent, he can strike me with a half step. He can hit my arm, he can hit my head. With 1 step forward, he can easily squarely come down and strike. Now what he's going to do is he can hit, right? So this is the danger zone. He's a threat to me here, right? Not so much, right? You'll see in TSL, we'll start at good distance, usually the equivalent of 3 blocks, maybe even 4 blocks away from each other. There is zero threat for me. He's got to be at least 2 steps before he can hit me, which gives me plenty of time to think about what my response is going to be, right? In the middle of the bout, we're going to be here, right? We're going to be here, if not closer. Keep in mind, if I'm much closer, why the heck do I have a 34 and 36-inch blade in my hand? Because I'm within 2 feet of my opponent, right? So you've got a long piece of plastic or a long piece of steel in your hand. You better stand where you can actually take advantage of that length, right? But again, in the middle of a fight, and this is where we'll start the routine we're going to walk to. We're going to be this 3 foot, 4 foot apart from each other. So we are in measure with each other and very much ready to attack each other and ready to be attacked or have to defend. So you got to make an action at that point. Does that make sense? Cool. Those 4 primary guards are really the 4 bread and butter guards for any system, really, right? It's middle guard, low guard, shoulder, and a high guard. Are there others? Absolutely, right? A rear low guard behind your body. You can be up into what's called an ox or a high forward guard, right? You can be in a standing guard, which is very much here, ready to go, ready to attack. Similar, but my feet are together and I'm kind of ready to pounce forward. There's always variations. The trick is anything I do with my right foot forward, I can switch and do it with my left foot forward. So left foot forward middle guard, left foot forward rear, right foot forward shoulder, right foot forward high. So we don't want to constrain ourselves. We don't have to stay. We're not boxers, or we're not, certain sports you have to be right-handed or left-handed. You should be able to be ambidextrous with your feet. So left foot forward, right foot forward. I know there's a better term for that. I never think of it, so I'll say ambidextrous with your feet. Right? You can have your left foot forward or right foot forward no matter what you're fighting. You should be used to doing that. We fight in a square, so we're not fighting very linearly, so we do not have to maintain the advancing steps or the gathering steps and retreats. We can actually step and be a lot more mobile with our attacks. So, make sense? Cool. Let's do, kind of transition to a few different paths here.
So you just went on like that tangent.
I did, and that's my problem. I go on a lot of tangents all the time. But, so we talked a little bit about guards, right? How do you start with your opponent? We talked a little bit about lines of attack. Let's go through that for a few more minutes. So, if I'm against my opponent, right, and we're on this strip line here, right, we're against each other, we're starting off. Like I said, we fight in a square. There's absolutely no reason to stay in line with my opponent. Right now, my center line of attack is right directly in line with his sternum, right in his chest. So is his. Nothing says I can't be here. I can't move to here. If he's going to come down, or he's got a pure line of sight ready to come down the head, well, I want to create a new center line here, so that when he does step down and attacks, I can step over and be here for that counterattack, right? I don't want to be where his blade is. Sounds obvious, right? But I don't want to be there. I can do that in one of two ways. So if he comes down, I can step off the line of attack like I just did, as he comes down, right? Good. I'm kind of going in a radius around my opponent, so I'm maintaining distance. Or, quite honestly, I can step back. I'm still off the line of attack. Maybe I've gotten over him. Maybe I'm against the wall. Maybe there's people to my left or right. Maybe I can't move sideways. I can step back. You do not have to maintain position to your opponent and accept it. Now, I can. Right, if he comes down, and we'll do this drill in a second, I can sit there and come in and take the block. Either in advance and walk into his space, or wait for him to come in and take the block a lot farther back. So there's a few ways to approach an attack, and the drill we're going to do in a few minutes, we'll go through at least 3 of those different ways, right? So basically what I want to do is try to give you tools from your toolbox that you can use as you're sparring and fighting, right? So first is guards. What picture are you painting for your opponent, right? Am I giving him my head? Am I giving him my side? Am I giving him my elbow? Am I giving him nothing and waiting for him to come in, right? Second, how do you respond once you give it to him? And we'll go through the drill we're going to go through 3 different types of responses you can do to the same attack. Anything before that? I think before that we need to cover? I don't think so.
Maybe you should cover what the openings actually are.
Bill's making a symbol.
Blocks. Yes, we have to cover the blocks. Thank you very much.
Who does that? You don't need blocks.
So I'll leave it like this. There are 3 different types of fighters out there. There's the purely offensive fighter that doesn't really care what you're doing. They just want to attack you full blast. They don't care what guard you're in. They don't care what stance you're in. They will go punch for punch because they can take it and give it. Right? I used to be one of those guys. Right? I can take one and give
Now
2.
he's old.
But I'm old. Yeah. But I'm old.
Far behind you.
There is the purely defensive fighter. The guy or gal who retreats, waiting for their opening, or doesn't even see an opening, or can't make an opening, and just waits for their opponent to falter or fall, step out of the ring, or something to reset. Right? The third type is a counterpuncher. Someone that is either setting their opponent up to accept an attack, parry, counterattack their opponent. Right? Whether that's a block and a counterpunch, whether that's a parry and a riposte with a sword. I'm not saying which is better. Everybody's personality is different. Everybody's style is different. You pick what's right for you. If you find yourself falling into a way of fighting, change it too. Give yourself some variety, right? Challenge yourself one night when you spar. When we spar at the school, our sparring is not to win. Our sparring is to learn something, right? So I know I'm going to get hit a lot, and I'm going to lose half my matches because I'm trying new things, right? If you don't use the time you have sparring to try new stuff, you're never going to grow, right? Just trying to win isn't going to get you anything. That being said, we're getting close to tournaments. We do shift gears and train to win. We fight to clock and fight to point. We try to apply the techniques we've been practicing for the 2 or 3 months before that. So, let's talk about blocks before we go individual. Let's start right foot forward, left foot back, middle guard. As we said before, very simple. I'm kind of guarding all points of the body. In this very bladed, narrow, right foot forward stance, we don't have a front and back. If I was standing hips forward, feet parallel, I have a front and I have a back. By standing with my feet apart, I actually have an inside and an outside. Right? The inside of my body is my chest side, the outside is my back side. I've got 3 zones of attack: low, middle, and high. Subsequently, we have 6 blocks: inside middle, outside middle, low, and high. Right? We try to make it as simple as possible. And this is the stuff that's kind of independent of any part of the world, any time in history. This is just how people block, how people cut. You will see subtleties and nuances, but again, we're playing with glow sticks, so we can do what we want to do. Right? So, inside middle block, kind of the bread and butter. It's an attack coming from your shoulders to your hips. So, Rocky attacks down to my shoulders, my hips. How am I going to react to that? He's trying to cut through my body. He's trying to slice me in half. He's trying to bisect me in some way. Right? Inside middle block. As he comes in, I bring my blade in and I parry. Just a little bit. So move that way. Hold it up. Good. So, as Rocky comes in with a cut, maybe I'll give him a low guard to kind of promote him to come in my shoulder. He comes in, inside middle block. What I'm doing is I'm bringing my hands out, but I'm keeping my tip in. What I see everyone do is this windshield wiper kind of block, block, block. And it's like a windshield wiper on a car. Right? If I do that with Rocky, and I do this windshield wiper block, and I come all the way across, yeah, I may block him, I may not. He may slide off, but my tip is way far away from his head, as opposed to the same block with my tip in and my hands out. I'm much closer to his head, I'm much closer to his hands. I will actually maintain pressure on the blade as I come through, and I can keep myself safe. Right? So inside middle block, outside middle block, bread and butter, because most people that attack you are going to attack to your shoulders. So if he comes in with that attack, I'm pulling my hands in, block. If he comes to the outside, same foot forward, just cut to the outside. I'm going to block to the outside. If you notice my tip, just go back, do a couple times back and forth. My tip is always staying towards the middle and the center line of my body. My hands are enough to keep my head safe. I am not doing this, because the minute I do that, he's going to come right around. So I'm not overextending my block. Keep my hands in enough, and play with this as you're fighting, because if I come in, right, if he puts his sword up to an inside middle block, he comes in, just do it here. He blocks, right? He's still got a good 18 inches, 12 inches there. He could actually bring that saber in, and he's still quite safe, right, from my attack, a good distance still. So you really keep yourself very safe with minimal movement. So let's all do this together. Right foot forward, left foot back. Inside middle block, your hands are coming in, hilts going out. Back to middle guard. Outside middle block. A little awkward because you're fighting your body mechanics. I'm blocking to the outside, my hips want to go in. Weaker block, but it is required. Here, outside middle block, inside middle block. Keeping that kind of cone of protection around your body.
Keep the tip still and go back out.
And we'll attack all you guys with this in a second and show you what it feels like.
Really take
So, next one, low inside, low outside block. Just as it sounds. I'm taking my tip, I'm pulling my hilt up, and blocking low. So as Rocky comes in to attack my legs, maybe I'm up in shoulder guard, he comes in to attack my legs, blocking low. He comes to block the other side, blocking outside low. Inside low, outside low. You see I change my feet positions with every block because I always want to block to the strong side of my body. The strong side of my body is any way my hips are opening up. So if I'm blocking to the inside, I can do inside and outside, but again, anytime I'm going counter to the way my body wants to turn, it's a weaker block.
And you just attack it.
And right, exactly. Absolutely. So, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 4 of our guys here, 5 of us. We go through this all the time. So what I'd say is, let's line up 4 people on the back, or 5 people in the back in the gray there, maybe 5 people in the middle here, and we'll combine and do some inside cuts, and we'll go walk through blocks, and then my guys, we can just do those blocks with the guys real quick. We'll just spend 2 minutes going through it, if that's okay, and then we'll do the cut drill. So just come on out, line up, and just line up wherever you guys are comfortable. You guys just grab anybody. So so everybody start off in a middle guard, and what we'll do is I'll just come in and do a quick leg cut here, just practice that block.
Left and right. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, we'll do a couple of those. Got it. For the most part.
So I just want to get everybody a feel of what it feels like real quick.
That way you put it counter cut.
Oh, you're to keep going. I was gonna such a terrible version. I think that like coming from this is just awkward for me. So I'm trying to find an easier way to. Huh?
With your dominant one.
The inside and inside.
So this one takes this.
It's a hockey move.
Is it?
You're skating backwards.
Oh, see, I never played hockey. That's across. I was up here.
Yeah, so if you're going back and forth there, it's literally, you're just shifting like this.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's it.
No, again, I'm missing it because I think I'm going.
You're going to inverted block. So the inverted block's a middle block.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't an inverted block.
Okay, so what am I missing when I'm going from this side?
I'll show you what they hit. Right? So we're going to do the high, high. High, low. Right? So if you can't come back, low.
So am I doing an inverted
You're
block?
doing a middle inverted. Right? Versus a low.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So do the cuts at me. Right? So we're going to do.
So we're gonna go.
Have to break that. You just need to make sure. And then I come back to the other side.
Yeah, so you're just going to do from here, you're just going to do the hockey.
Because my foot is not.
So you don't have to bring the blade in front of you at all. So you're literally doing a cross.
Literally abandoned Kendo for a half second. So I'm trying to, and that's the.
While the guys are walking through that,
I can't pass back.
You're not, I'll be honest, you might not see too many low strikes coming at your legs, but targets are from the ankles up, right? So it's a very valid target. You will see guys swipe and snipe with legs, right? Doing that low
Everyone
block.
knows Jesse's diving.
Oh yeah, diving attack. He's a
everyone's
diver.
on the artist, right?
High.
What do you really see when you see low attack? You see the-
So let's do one more block.
Step back in. Is that my issue on that?
Let's do a high block. I can do a hold for a
And
second.
then exit.
All right, so high block. We'll do this in the drill. So essentially, someone is coming with an attack to the top of my head. What do? So Rocky's coming down with an attack to the top of my head. So I'm giving him a low guard. I'm giving him my head. He comes down for a strike. He's gonna hit me in the top of the head. Bang. So what's the first thing I gotta do? Get my head out of there. Second thing, I want to stop his blade. First and foremost, get safe. Second, stop his blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to step toward the mirror on this one, so we're back into the strike. So I'm right foot forward, I'm in low guard, he's in a high guard, he's going to come right down on my head. I'm going to step off the line of attack, bring my hands up, and block. Now, if you notice, I'm blocking horizontal. The saber is still over my head, so in case he tracks me, I'm still safe. But he's striking where I was. I am not blocking like this, because if I do, worse his blade gets slide right down onto my hands. If I block at an angle, I have to block out, so his blade slides off, which, oh, by the way, puts his head in perfect spot for me to hit. Right? So the attack is, the block is this. As he comes down, my front foot is going to step out to the right. Blade's going to go over my head. Wherever my foot goes, that's where the handle goes. I can do it to both sides. If he goes back, I want to step out. My left foot is because I don't want to block like this, right? I don't want to cross my legs, right? My left foot's going to step out, blade's going to go up, I'm going to block over my head. Simple, pretty straightforward. Just, hey, protect, get your head out of the way first, stop his blade second.
Point number 2, your hands do not go above your head, because then you get hit in the hands.
Right, so if I block too high, watch what he's going to do. Go right underneath. So I don't want to reach for that block. And I don't want to go too low either, because if I go too low, he's going to hit my head before he hits my saber, or they're going to hit at the same time. Right? So just enough forehead height or so. And I can block it because the angle of his attack is going to put his tip way above a danger zone for my head. Right? And it gives me a lot of flexibility because if he starts walking in or coming in, I can kind of move and do different things. Right? I can at least get into his space or counterattack. So that's actually the cut and block we're going to do in the drill. So we'll have more time to do that. It will take us about 5 minutes to go through this drill, and we'll talk a little bit about tempo and timing and countercuts. So if I can ask, pair up with someone, and if my guys can pair up with somebody here.
Rocky and Chris.
There we go.
Oh.
How'd you guys pair up?
I mean, pair somebody.
Oh, you're there.
You guys gonna pair up?
I don't know, whatever you do. I don't know.
Cool.
Those
Whatever.
two are, those two are like brothers. They love
That's
each other.
all. Chris doesn't. So,
Awesome.
whatever is easier for me.
Whenever you're in your pommel face and this much give
All right, so these kind of paired up.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, Rocky and Eric's
the
coming
ones
back
down.
in too, so cool. So Eric's coming in now. Cool. So one-handed fighters, right, by the way, I always teach everybody to start off with 2 hands on the weapon. One, you get more leverage, you get more control, you get a bit more power. That being said, there is a lot of advantage, or there's benefits, or there's a different style of fighting with one hand. So if you do decide to fight with one hand after a while, what I tell my guys is, that's when you say, hey, that Polish saber stuff, that Italian saber stuff, that rapier stuff is really cool. I've been looking at a lot of videos. I want to move to that. Good. Then you're ready. You started talking about footwork, you're understanding stances, you're using 2 hands, but you're seeing something that you like. It clicks with you. That's the right time to pick up a new style. Right? In the meantime, start with 2 hands on the weapon. You guys have already done this, that's fine. Right? I'm not going to change because I'm too gentle to do what you do. But I always say, because I got a lever. I got a lot more power, I've got a lot more energy I can use, and I'm just in control. That being said, we'll see a lot of guys in PSL that fight out here.